Hello comedians, welcome back to the channel. In the world of comedy writing, there is a technique that has stood the test of time. It's called the rule of three. This simple yet effective technique has been used by comedians and writers to create humor that resonates with audience and delivers punchlines with maximum impact. So let's dive into the magic of comedy trios. We're going to discuss how to use them so we can craft memorable and hilarious jokes. Very simply put, the comedy trio is where you have the setup, you have a punchline, and you have a secondary punchline, a third section to the joke. And the secondary punchline is usually going to be a twist on the first punchline to get that extra laugh. So let's dive into the detail of each of these sections. First off, we have the setup. Every joke begins with a setup, a premise or situation that introduces a comedic idea to the audience. The setup provides essential context and primes the audience for what's to come. It's the first step in setting up the comedy journey. Second, we have the first punchline. With the setup laid out, it's time for the first punchline. This punchline is often straightforward and expected. It's like the setup is winding up a spring, building anticipation for what comes next. The first punchline gives the audience a taste of humor, but they still don't see the full comedic picture. And our third section is the second punchline. Here's where the magic happens. The second punchline, also known as the twist. This is the unexpected and clever turn of events that takes the joke to a whole new level of hilarity. The twist subverts the audience's expectation, catching them off guard and eliciting genuine laughter. I'll interrupt the video just for a second like I normally do, just to say one thing. If you're getting value from it, hit the subscribe button, join the community. Let's make this channel as big as it can be. Thanks a million. Let's get back to the video. So here's what I want you to do. Look back at your comedy writing, and wherever you have a setup and a punchline, I want you to now, using the rule of three, add a second punchline. This time, turning the first punchline on its head a little bit, seeing the first punchline from a completely different point of view. Each element should be concise and tightly written. Don't drag out the setup or the first punchline. Keep them snappy so you can maintain the comedic rhythm. In regards to the pacing, I want you to experiment with the timing between the first punchline and the second punchline, the twist. The comedic effect can be varied depending on the delivery. So perhaps there's some facial expressions or a way you can move your body while you're experiencing and living through the laugh off the first initial punchline. This is of course experimented with, and you will over a number of gigs come to know in which way you move better to get into that extra twist. So make sure the twist is clear, surprising, and relevant to the setup. Even if it's not the same point of view as your first initial punchline. It doesn't matter, as long as the joke is connected in some way. You can have the twist connected to the setup and the punchline connected to the setup, even though they aren't necessarily connected to each other. Or you can have the second twist punchline connected to the first punchline and not at all connected to the setup. It doesn't really matter here. This is where your writing can get creative. As long as it makes sense to the audience, as long as it makes sense in the joke, if it does both those things, it's going to get a laugh, and it's going to get a pretty good one too. So I hope this rule of three technique is going to add more punchlines, meaning more laughs, to your already working comedy routine. And even using this little tiny technique, you can see that there is much more material to be gained from what you have already got on the paper, which is why I always say you should never start with a blank piece of paper. Any writing at all is good writing because there's always humor hidden in there somewhere. It's just knowing where and how to look for them. I really hope you've enjoyed learning about this little technique. It's certainly stood to me over the years, and I hope it does so to you. Go get writing, go get performing, and I'll see you on the next video.